Well, we're going to enter into kind of a panel session right now. It's a good segue. So, Monica, I kind of have to ask you, just from a technology vendor in this space, helping builders, what are some best practices, perhaps, that they could consider? Because I know a lot of builders want to do all this, but then they just go, oh my, yeah, it's just too hard. It's going to take too long. We don't have the staff, so we end up living, with decades-old technology for too long because of the fear. So what could we do to assuage some of that?
Yeah, no, I can definitely talk through that. But first, if it's okay, if I can start with a little bit, I just wanted to say that I've known of Ken for a couple years, but I just met him about a couple years ago after he wrote the book, How Much is the Milk? And I picked that book up, and it is a wonderful, wonderful book. I can't say that enough because having been in the industry, I worked for a company, I ran Builder Partnerships, which is a rebate management company, and we would collect information from builders and submit them to manufacturers for rebates. And it sounds real simple, but over time, as we got more and more builders involved, we started really collecting the data and reporting that data back to the manufacturers. And it was actually phenomenal, the amount of information that the manufacturers could glean, because surprisingly, they don't know where their products end up. They produce certain products, they sell it to a distributor. They don't know if it's going to go into inventory or if it's going to get sold, and then the distributor just orders more. And so when I started reading that book about how you can impact the supply chain by collecting some of that data and passing that information back, not just to the suppliers and trade contractors, but all the way back to the manufacturers, and how we can have such a big impact on the industry and the profitability within the industry because of data, I just was blown away. It was just phenomenal. And especially with the fact that we know as builders, when a contract is signed, what products go into that house, and yet we don't share that information with our suppliers until 5 days before we need the product on site. We need to change that. And that's part of the reason that I decided to come and work for a company like ECI, because ECI is an integrated management solution, or we provide many integrated management solutions to help builders operate. And we deal with a lot of data. So we don't just work with builders, we work with suppliers, manufacturers, and we even have a product for trade contractors that we recently just purchased. It was developed by a trade contractor, so that's really nice as well. But to get to your question, what is it that builders can do? And it's just, you just need to do it. As a builder, you need to take the risk and start on a path, right? You're not going to get it right always the very first time, and it's not always going to be easy, but you need to get your team on board and adopt some of this technology, and realizing that it is going to be a lot of work. And there's never a good time to do it. There just isn't, but you can have a substantial impact on your company and on your operations by adopting new technology.
Could you give us some idea of what kind of resources would they need to commit for different size builders? So if I'm a single market builder, I build 20 homes a year or something like that, or maybe 25 homes a year. Do I need a team? Do I need external consultants? What's my commitment to say, okay, I want to go do this. I don't personally have the time to go do it. So what do I need to make this happen?
Yeah, well, and it depends on what you're trying to do and what the technology is, but you definitely need to have a champion within your company, and you need to have the buy-in from your management team, because if you don't have buy-in from the management team, there's no way that the team can be successful. So at ECI and at many of the companies that do implement technology, they do have implementation teams that will handhold your team. But you do need to set some time aside to do that and have some of those resources available. So it just kind of depends on what systems you're implementing. An operating system could take 3 to 6 months to implement, and it can be pretty intensive. I mean, a lot of it is also getting your data in order. So if you're a pretty organized builder and you have good processes in place, then it's a little bit easier to then adopt the technology to follow along with those processes, or to modify those. But if not, then it will take a little bit of extra work to make sure that you have certain processes in place and that you're standardizing some of the work that you're doing.
Paul, from your perspective, going through this, that was a pretty major transition for you to go through. What did your change management team look like? Time, did it take a year, 2 years, 10 years? Did you have dedicated resources? Did people just do it part-time in their job? What did that look like?
We didn't add any staff, so there wasn't any additional people. It took us about 2 years, and there were some external vendors that supported that. Simpson Strong Tie and High Arc. So it wasn't where we had to go out and hire people to do all this work. It was just a mindset change. Use their expertise, have them do some of the work. Yes, there was a cost to it, but we didn't have to invest in people. And we feel that we have a much better process today.
And when you say it was 2 years, you started it, you got nothing out of it, and then finally you launched it in 2 years, or is that kind of? Or,
About a year to get ready for it,
okay.
And then we've been live for the last year in Indianapolis using that platform.
Great. And now you're going to roll it to other operations?
Yes, we're introducing it into Columbus last month.
And then what? Give us some flavor of that. What is that? Now, once you did it in Indianapolis, which I'd call that the big kahuna, you made the decision to go tear up your processes and go do this, but now replicating it, doing it in another market, I take it it's not going to take 2 years. Is it smaller? Is it quicker, faster, or is it still a 2-year journey?
It'll be much faster. In Indianapolis was complicated by those new plans that I talked about, so there's a little additional work there. But in Indianapolis, we started there because that was an expansion market for us, so we felt like we didn't have processes there, so we didn't have to retrain people on how to use it. And what we're finding, we were afraid when we took it to places where we had been building for years, there'd be a lot of hesitation. But once they've seen the benefits and know that it's been working in Indianapolis for a year, there's almost no pushback from sales or purchasing on using this moving forward.
One of the other things to keep in mind with technology too is that you're never at the end, right? So as you adopt it more, you'll learn that you can leverage it more too. So you can continue to improve with the technology. For instance, like Lasso is a great CRM, and a lot of people who first adopt it, they don't necessarily realize all the different things they can do with it. But after a year or two, then you start integrating some more of those processes and changes the technology changes your processes, which change your technology and use of technology. So it's kind of the cycle where you're continually improving your operation.
You're kind of leveraging, or reinforcing the comments I made, to kick this off, that if you want to be a technology leveraged company, it's a journey. You can't wait for perfection. You've just got to get on the journey. You've got to decide that this stuff is going to be important, whether it's important today or 5 years from now. It really is relevant. You got to get on the horse. You've got to start making progress. You've got to start making some investments, because if you keep waiting for perfection, you simply never do anything. It's that waiting for tsunami problem that we have. This is a ripple, and there's a bunch of ripples here, and all of these ripples mean that there's money every single day that's flowing through our business that's not flowing to our bottom line and could be flowing to our bottom line. And we could be capturing some of that tomorrow, and we'll capture even more of it a year from now, and we'll capture even more of it 5 years from now. But we won't capture any of it if we don't start. Any comments, last parting words?
And your question about how do you get started. And when I counsel builders, that there's a ton of supply chain methodologies you can use to control costs, to get your costs down, to increase your capacity, the capacity of your building material suppliers and manufacturers. Getting started is the key. When I went to write a book, I'm a carpenter, right? I'm not a writer. And so writing a book was a kind of a daunting task for me, but I just felt like there was a book inside me I had to get out. And so I had to figure out how to get it out. And a lot of the counsel that I received from other writers was just start writing. Oh, well, yeah, but I need chapter structure, and I need how to do this. And just start writing. Well, no, but I think I need to brush up on English. I've been to school in a long time. Just start writing is the counsel. And I would say the same thing for supply chain management. And I would say take it slow. Don't start with framing or mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. Please don't start with those. Can you count windows? Oh my gosh, really easy to count windows, right? Can you count doors? Yeah, really easy to count doors. Drywall? It's easier than you thought it could be. Actually, you do the living square foot times 4, you're really close to having the drywall right there. So start with 1 or 2 or 3 categories. Don't do more than that. And then start with the big stuff, right? If you're going to do drywall, just do 1/2-inch drywall and 5/8 drywall, and call the other thing labor and sundry materials. So later on, years when you get good at this, you can now take out nails, screws, joint compound, joint tape. But for right now, just go get the big stuff, because that is the impact that your distributors and manufacturers will find valuable. And when they find value in the information that you're providing to them, that's what sets you apart. A question I get asked all the time from smaller builders is, hey, how do I compete against the big builders who have all this volume? By providing information that the big builders aren't providing. Give them 30, 60, 90 days lead times on all your materials, and you'll be set apart from the crowd like you wouldn't believe.
You know, I hope everybody out here got as much I got out of this. Ken, you gave me an incredibly great idea. I heard, you know, when I heard he wrote this book called How Much is the Milk, immediately I had an idea to write another book. I'm going to write a book on negotiating with builders, and it's going to be called More Than the Bread. What do you think? Huh?
I think it could be
And
very complimentary.
And I'm going to sell it to every supplier out there, okay, to counter your logic. It's just more than the bread, okay? Well, thank you very much. Let's give a hand to this panel, and we're going to move on to our final session.